Well, we have 9 techniques, very ancient, from the Yoga-Sutra of Patanjali to begin meditation and acquire some kind of introspection in favor of dhyana or subsequent development of meditation without distraction, and even coming eventually to samadhi, which is the open door for the higher perception, not only psychic powers, but as well a joy and bliss of the upper levels of our higher self nature. And so the sutras were from 132 to 139. Of course, you are invited to study the Yoga-Sutras of Patanjali, commented by Dr. Tan in the Science of Yoga, as well as about the effect of Om, or the divine sacred nature of that word or mantra, which communicate us with Ishvara or the divine, from Sutra 123 to Sutra 128. And I was asked about the consequences of samadhi, what is the proof or any evidence of these effects. I must add, so maybe the perception subjective of light, but this we cannot really communicate to others, maybe only for the changing example of each life. But as well, some psychic powers were used in Vibhuti-pada, or the third part of the Yoga-Sutra, to communicate some results. And I use as an example as well was our subject toward insight and wholeness, our role in shaping the future. For example, the prophecy of Bishop Leadbeater in the well-known book Man, Winslow and Witter from 1913, that I really think it is fulfilling. The prophecy, for example, of internet is there, of the European Union. Can you imagine his talking about Union of Europe in 1913 in the, so to speak, beginning of the World War, the first, and even after the second, and to coming for world peace, changing the weapons into ways to overcome the starvation of the world, problems of education. So the first say he foresaw the internet, you can look at that, the European Union, he foresaw the overcome of all diseases by genome dominion. This is coming as well. And a new energy that will cure or overcome all the problems of our environment, which is a clean atomic energy. And I must tell you, from 1st of December 2023, Naka in Japan has a fusion reactor in activity with absolutely clean energy functioning, and we are not knowing and seeing that the prophecy is fulfilling. And this will solve the problems of energy, and this means there will be clean energy available to all. It's a very, very cheap, and even is all the transformation of waters from the ocean into systems of transformation for a natural water for us, mere adding some salts, and this very cheaply done by this new energy. I will invite you so to see these results, as well as the trine of Pluto, Uranus, and Jupiter in May 2009, probably the treaties for peace was telling about the Federation of Nations to overcome all kinds of war. So we are in Aquarius age. The things are being changing, but he was foreseeing as well in the beginning some conflicts and adjustments, and I suppose we are just in the eye of the hurricane just now. 4 years are we to wait, but this is a way to see how the perception expanded by the dominion of the mind in the Yoga-Sutra. I was giving as an example. If you want to come more clearly on the subject, as I received so many questions, I decided to invite you to continue in a Zoom activity in the 7th of August. It is in my Instagram and personal Facebook dictation. Free access for all of you, because we don't have time enough, and I must stay in my 7 minutes. Thank you so much.
The next one is Barbara Hebert, who left this morning, and she had a workshop on practical tools for working through the personality, and Maryse Decoste has been the runner of that solo.
Thank you, Donna. Well, I was approached by Barb this morning, who had to leave very quickly, and I was very happy to participate in her workshop. And she said, well, you know, what you have to say is that we were sitting around the table of the first one, and then we were in a half a circle for the second one. And that's all we need to do, really. So would you mind just going over there and wrapping up everything? And I thought, no. 7 minutes? You know, even the sheet that she handed out is in my bags, in the back seat, and on the back seat of my car. I had it. So, first of all, practical tools for working through personality. It sounds very vague, but the handout that she gave us was absolutely wonderful. The first session on Thursday, we sat around the table, and I ended up being the reader, because that's what I do. I'm the reader. I have a good loud voice, so I was the reader. And then the lovely woman next to me named Susan, and she was the one that kept us straight on the straight line. We read what the handout that Barbara had, which had, I believe, 10 to 12 wonderful quotes. And we started, every time that we read one quote, we had so much to say. It was absolutely marvelous. And at some point, Susan said, okay, next one. So we started with the next one. What we found out by the time we got to the very bottom of the list was that each quote answered or gave some an inkling of what the first quote had been all about, and confirmed our reflections, our what we were thinking about it, what we had to say about it, what we were learning from each book. And we thought it was absolutely wonderful that she had put them in such wonderful order. I can't tell you what they were because I haven't done the sheet, which is unfortunate. And the second one on Friday was done in a half circle, and apparently the discussions were as lively and as interesting because they didn't quite finish the whole thing. So I haven't seen Susan anywhere around, but somewhere I'm putting in the ether. Thank you, Susan, for keeping me online, for reading all of those wonderful quotes so that we did manage to get through all of them. It was a wonderful session, and I would repeat it any time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maryse. The next one is Sonal Myrali from India, Education for Life, a Theosophical Perspective. We turn the mic on.
Good afternoon. So we had designed the workshop along two central questions or ideas. As human beings, what is most essential? What do we cherish the most? What gives us a sense of contentment? And the answers to all these are universal. That life is primarily about being good, about being happy, about being contented, being of service to others, having inner peace, etc. So, can true education help us navigate through life and guide us towards achieving this inner state of equilibrium, of being connected with others, to have no ill will in the heart? The other question was how to make students understand the interconnectedness of all existence at all levels, and not as an idea or a theory, but actually how what I do, what I say, and what I think and feel has an impact all around me. And once I understand this interconnectedness, how it changes me. This is the transformative education. In Upanishads, this is called Paravidya, the ultimate knowledge, the knowledge of self-realization, of self-discovery, and the knowledge that ultimately liberates. How do we discover ourselves, become aware of ourselves, feel all the layers that obscures the Gita nature and peel them one by one? Can we take incremental steps to move closer to our true nature? And how can education help in this? So we planned two main activities towards this. The first one was a web of emotions, where emotions were personified and a web was created using a thread. This was to understand how negative emotions impact us. They not only impact us, they alienate us from others, they isolate us, trigger other negative emotions within us and also to all the people around us. Similarly, how positive emotions are inclusive, unifying and expanding in nature. And students can see for themselves that this interconnectedness is organic in nature. We are all part of one big organic whole in which everything affects everything. Whatever we do, we have a corresponding effect, result, and this, if they understand, will give them a very different perspective. We use this as a tool to look at interconnectedness from different perspectives. From the perspective of science, as a fact in nature, as a study in social science, and for many other themes. Within the story mosaic activity, to understand how collaborative work gives a unified for a more holistic and wholesome understanding. The individual perceptions are allowed to be expressed in different ways, what Loris Malaguzzi calls the 100 different languages through which children express themselves. It could be a poem, it could be a drawing, it could be a fact, an insight, etc. And how collaborative work expands our minds and heart. At school, our day begins with a morning assembly where everyone sits in concentric circles and all attention is towards center. So it is convergence of energies, it is convergence of attention. And that is how we chant and sing together, sit in silence and take that to classes. The day ends with a reflective practice to reflect on the day, on oneself. And we have once or twice in a year a deep reflective practice. We all have an inner compass, an inner guidance mechanism that directs us how to connect with it at a deeper level so that our actions, our words and volition are not arising from surface level, not from our tamasic nature, not from our habits, prejudices and self-centeredness. this reflection goes along identifying our one small area within oneself and that one finds challenging. And then with a 7-day reflection tracking sheet which we have designed, it's like this. And for a week or two, in a very non-judgmental way, just to observe and be aware whether I was able to be aware of the challenges within myself, whether I did anything. So this is a very gentle tool to help us remain mindful about the challenge. We also need to look at education system with fresh ideas, fresh eyes, because school is not a simulated zone for learning about life. We believe that school is life itself, and our work is only to provide nurture, warmth, and to take care of the vulnerable and the young people who are like us. In the current standardization in the system, which came about actually due to the reductionist approach in science, this absolutely takes away the autonomy of the learning process, and it suffocates the inner being, the child within, and they grow into limited versions of human beings that they might have become. So the story mosaic activity we did, that illustrates that together we become whole, because life is not divided into subjects. World is not divided into subjects, and there are no divisions in life. I will end with because he is in Canada, I was tempted to share the ancient Cree saying. It says that only when the last tree has died, the last river has been poisoned, and then when the last fish has been caught, will we realize that we cannot eat money. We are all living in the midst of a very taker culture, where we are living in the world of patents and copyrights and ownership and affordability. So the giver culture has to take roots. The practice of gratitude has to become more visible and more meaningful. And in this teaching learning process, the teacher is a co-learner. Today we heard the word magic many times. It is a magical moment when the teacher, he taught, and the learning can become one in a moment of complete synchronicity. And as the Upanishadic prayer goes, Om Sahna Hovatu, all should be of one mind. There should be no distractions, inner as well as the outer. And that is when the learning takes place.
No, I guess you won't wish it in it first. Okay. The next one, Pablo. Pablo centered the fundamental work of the Theosophical Society. Okay.
In our workshop, we worked with a series of quotes taken from the masters, Blavatsky and other Theosophical leaders. And the idea was to examine some aspects of the Theosophical work. We started with some quotes from the Mahatma letters, which are quite dire, but can actually be very inspiring for our work. The master says that the TS work is a question of perdition or salvation to thousands. It is a question of the progress of the human race or its retrogression. And then he said also in another letter, we are playing a risky game and the stakes are human souls. So the masters looked at the TS in a very serious way. They created or inspired the founding of our organization as a real tool to help the world, perhaps not in a very visible way, but working rather on a level that regular social and political work cannot reach. So we explored, to some extent, these other aspects of the Theosophical work that has to do with the transformation of human consciousness, a transformation of the way in which people think by changing the ideas that are on the mental clay. And if we read what, for example, Annie Besant said over a century ago, she said that all these ideas that at the time were thought to be crazy ideas, really, and I talked to some other members that corroborated this, many of those ideas are today accepted and even fashionable. So she said that that was going to happen if we did our work. Of course, the transformation has to go beyond merely acceptance of ideas. But this is part of our work. There is a quote in the Mahatma letters that our work is to sow seeds, and the seeds will sprout, and that is the work of nature. So, as we know, we are about to finish an evolutionary cycle, what Sinet called the fifth subways, the fifth evolutionary cycle, because it was Sinet and Hume that chose these terms for these cycles. And we are about to start a new civilization. As Gina Jalasa said, a new civilization of intuition. So one aspect of the work of the TX is to help in this new cycle that is about to begin. And cycles don't happen mechanically. They need to be aided. As you may know, with the secret doctrine, Blavatsky says nature unaided fails. And this is why she said all laws in the cosmos are mediated by intelligences. So Annie Besant proposes that on the physical plane, the members of the Theosophical Society are the ones that can participate in the creation of this new civilization of intuition. So she said, for example, the immediate future of the Theosophical Society is the work of building that next subrace which is to come. That is the work for which consciously the society ought to be working now. In proportion as you realize it, so will be the strength of your labor. In proportion as you understand it, so should be your share in the happier work of that happier time. For the future of the Theosophical Society is to be the mother and even the educator of the child sixth subrace. So then she proposes that if we know what characteristics this subrace, this new cycle we have, we can cooperate consciously. And of course, we have been discussing all of this during all this Congress. Everything that tends to unity, everything that tends to brotherhood, everything that tends to cooperation, everything that tends to stimulate the intuition. All of this is part of the new civilization. So we discussed how in practical ways we can try to start generating a different way of relating to each other so that we can help bring a new way of living, of working. This is why, for example, Rala Bournier said, I cannot sum up the purpose of the society better than by using the words human regeneration, the inner revolution which cleanses the mind. When this is not understood, the pursuit of the three objects can become wayward and misleading. So we discussed that anything we do in the TS, in the Theosophical Society, there is freedom of thoughts, there are different ways of working, there are different interests, but if we can do them with this aim of how can we help the development of these qualities, then that's all part of what the TS can offer humanity, so that the new cycle can be launched safely in the world. So that's more or less what we discussed. It was interesting to hear the different points of view, and I think we have a nice reflection together. Thank you.
There we go. Thank you, Pablo. Next, Leonie Van Gelder from GS America. Compassion in Action, Basics of the Energetic Healing Method.
Hello? Kiss Kate. There you go. There we go. Hi. First of all, I would like to thank Tim for inviting me to do this. It was an incredible honor, so thank you. And next I would like to thank Donna, and Cassandra Henning, who were my partners in crime and joined me in this venture. So Therapeutic Touch is an energetic healing method or practice developed by Dora Kunz and Dolores Krieger in the early 1970s. It arose, you think about the people, both members of the Theosophical Society, right? Dora steeped in Theosophy from birth onward, past president of the American section, but also a very gifted clairvoyant. Therapeutic Touch arose out of the Theosophical worldview and perspective and was grounded in Dora's extraordinary perceptions and insights into the subtle realms of disease and healing. Dora and Dee, through observations of spiritual healers really, came to understand that healing is a natural human potential engendered by compassion and the desire to help. Sort of what Pablo just talked about, the desire to help and compassion. And so this workshop that we did was sort of giving people a taste of therapeutic touch. We did a little bit of TT for self-healing, and the first workshop we actually were able to watch a practitioner working on somebody. In my opinion, therapeutic touch not only arose from a theosophical worldview, but I think it's applied theosophy. It is service based on compassion and the desire to help, and it comprises meditation, study, and self-inquiry. So I'm going to sort of list the keys of therapeutic touch in my mind. Compassion and the desire to help, because of course you can't do therapeutic touch unless you've got compassion and the desire to help. As Dolores Krieger, one of the founders, said, if it's not compassion, it's not therapeutic touch. So, centering and centering and grounding, I would call this meditation, self-preparation. It gives us access to that center of peace within and the universal healing energy, because therapeutic touch practitioners don't use their own energy to do therapeutic touch. They ask or commit to be a vehicle of universal healing energy, and this you need self-preparation for, and in a minute I'm going to talk a little bit about that. One of the things that therapeutic touch doesn't attempt to cure somebody, right? We're not looking at people as symptoms. We're looking at people as whole. And so when we work on others or when we work on ourselves, we don't see what's sick. We see wholeness. Okay, the sense of order. Therapeutic touch supports the ordering of the human, multidimensional, interdependent energy fields. Okay, the whole person. So that's what we focus on when we do therapeutic touch. in therapeutic touch, and I loved it when Tim said this the first day, motivation is all, right? In therapeutic touch, intention actually conducts the whole process because energy follows intention. So every phase of therapeutic touch, right? It's an intentional shift. So intention, I don't know how that just got them thrumming, is key. And also in therapeutic touch, it is important not to be attached to the outcome. We can only do our best. This sounds very much like the Gita, right? You can't be attached to the outcome. We can only do our best. We don't know karma, whatever. The outcome is not in our hands. And so that's really humbling. And it also is part of being that instrument of healing. We're offering the healing energy to our healing partner's field. And one thing we probably know will bring them peace. So a moment ago, I said that I thought the self-preparation part is so essential. You can't do a therapeutic touch without self-preparation, right? But it's also sort of it's so applicable to everything else in life. And I think that's why therapeutic touch, learning therapeutic touch is so valuable. Even if you decide you don't want to do the healing part, using your hands or whatever, you can use the self-preparation part in every single situation in your life. What it's about is pausing, right? Either, pausing if you're having problems in yourself, if other people in your environments or in the world are having problems. With therapeutic touch or, with Theosophy, the idea is, right? You can do something about it. How do we do something about it? We pause. We allow our distraction, let go of our distractions, our anxieties, our emotional afflictions, and we bring our awareness to our hearts, right? And the heart, of course, in many religions, probably most religions and spiritual philosophies, is the seat of our inner self, that source energy, whatever you want to call it. And when we bring, according to Dora, and I think according to Theosophy too, when we bring that attention to our hearts, right, that's when we can bring our attention to peace. Because peace, compassion are the qualities of the heart center. So we bring our attention to our hearts, and that aligns the personal order within us, right? We align our multidimensional fields when we go to our heart and we find that inner peace. But it also aligns us with universal order. And that's where the universal healing energy field, the universal field of life, really, we can access. And when we're a therapeutic touch practitioner, or when we're a person wanting to send peace to Gaza, what we can do is we can go within our heart centers. We can feel that. We can ask to be an instrument of healing energy, right? That universal healing energy. And then we can ground ourselves. And what do I mean by grounding ourselves? Like a tree. You look at a beautiful tree, or any tree, really. All trees are beautiful. And your roots are deep in the ground, right? Or they're in the ground, they're rooted. And when we find that inner peace in our inner selves and ask to be an instrument or commit to be an instrument of healing energy, when we ground ourselves in the earth, like a tree, then we can stabilize our own energy field, and that resonates around us to others' energy fields, and we also can then, with our intention, offer that energy to another or offer the energy to the world. That's why I think TT, or therapeutic touch, is such a great tool. because we can all use it. And to us Theosophists, it's sort of a natural way. And one of the things Dora observed, because she taught nurses originally therapeutic touch, as some of you may know, and now everybody can be taught therapeutic touch. But one of the things Dora noticed that when people practice therapeutic touch, their inner self gets ignited, transformation occurs. How could it not, right? You got this inner energy and you got this universal energy. There you have it. I hope I got some of that through.
Very clearly. And last but not least is our future. The future of the Theosophical Society and the work of its young members. It was co-facilitated by Francis Lin and Leo Ta.
Just get step 12. Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, your show is in morning or night? Right, so we are pretty grateful to be here in the World Congress. And, you know, when we saw all the workshops on the list, like we have all the wonderful different programs, and we thought, who in the world need a 10-hour workshop? Right? It doesn't feel or sound as exciting or interesting, but we're really glad. Like we have a really good turnout. Like we thought it's like 5, but actually we have about 20 or more. And one of the first things as we are here to talk about as the World Federation of Young Theosophists is to give more awareness to all the sections and lodges from all around the world, because it's not really very well known, as we know, even after some years of our existence or reactivation. But I could give a little bit of a introduction, just very briefly. You know, we only have 5-7 minutes on what the WFOIT is, right? So we could really start with the purpose statements that we came up during the first year in Northern ITC, the first youth gathering. It is to inspire a community of young seekers on the quest of life. And I think it is actually a lot of work. It's not so much about just organizing programs and then having fun activities, because the things that we do and the activities, both online and offline, has to be grounded in theosophical principles. But it's not just for fun. And then it will just be any other activities organized by any other organizations, or spiritual organizations, so to speak. And the thing is, as we started, so there are like, the second board member, second generation of board members. And through the years, even for myself and visiting Australian section as well, we do find a little bit of disconnectedness at the start, right? Because the lodge has its own programs, the sections has their own initiates. But as the international representative of the young members, we feel that there's still a little bit of distance or gap in between. But the thing is, over the years, when we engage and we get ourselves into the modules and sections and activities, we start to talk more to the members. We do get a lot more support, even morally, right? So young, like the youth camp or gallery, it's more mentions in programs, during programs or talks, right? In the lodges as well, which is pretty good, you know. And One of the biggest or not so obvious object of the WFYT is to prepare younger members for the work of the TS. That's like our hidden agenda. We don't really say that, we inspire a community of young seekers, yes. But the thing is, we want the activities or the programs that we do to inspire the young members to understand what is the true meaning of life. It's not so much about just going through the materialistic expectations of what a successful life is about. It is really about, I can't say for all, at least for myself, it's the service that's important, the giving, the meditation, and especially the study of Theosophical ideas and principles. It's really important. And of course, that being my own belief, I've seen also over the years, okay, why am I saying this? I started as a member in the TS 5 years ago. And some of us, we just attend the programs, right? And then we go home, we study, and sometimes we chat about the stuff that we read and study about. But what's more than that, over the time, I started to get more involved, helping out at the modules. And then through the members that we meet every single year, twice a year, at least in person, we start to realize the young members taking up positions or appointments on the section level, lodge levels, federation levels, and even in groups as well. It's really surprising. And I believe it could be because we found something so good that we want to be part of it. And we want to make it more accessible. It's just like how we have, right, what we say, words of mouth. When you get something good, finally says like, no, this is such a good thing, a good product. I want to let my friends know, I want to let the family know. And we want to make the TS or the things that we learn or study about in the Theosophical Society like that for everyone. That's the goal. And of course, we did discuss during the workshop a few issues that we encountered at the lodges and see how, as young members, we couldn't help with these issues. And there's quite a big here now. We have not a lot of time left. One of it is that what kind of programs or activities we can hold to attract young members. I think this is something that all the lodges are interested about. Right? We could have very interesting New Age programs, definitely. But the thing is, we do see young people getting into lodges for all these programs. And what is so not so surprising actually, when we hold Theosophical program or Theosophical topic activities, those members will never turn up. It's not as interesting. So the thing is, one of the participants actually did mention, how do we actually have activities or programs that makes Theosophical values, principles, and virtues extremely relatable and practical in our real lives, in our daily lives. I think that's one of the key. Because sometimes, even for the start, when I start reading the books, you just feel so distant. Only the Buddha can do it. And over the years, and that's right. And of course, life starts to get more difficult because we have to stop behaving or surrendering to our habits that we haven't been living with for a few decades. Yeah, in my case, a few decades. And of course, we are also really surprised to have some federations in India. Mr. Sanjay has been, Mr. Sanjay, okay. They had literally lodges with 20 over young members and only young members. That's really, really interesting. And activities for I think one of the ladies as well, can't remember, mentioning that they were part of the TS as kids. And yet, in like the round table and many of the different activities, and that really makes me think about all these things that we can do, not only just for the 18 to 41 years old, as what we have defined for age range for the members of the WFYT. I think that we can start talking about the younger generations, and of course, last night or the night before, on the second day, the 25th, I started talking to Lakshmi about like how can we have programs for under 18 years old. And it's pretty exciting. He's pretty excited to know we can talk about it. And of course, having info packs, right? It's not just having the brochures. We could have keychains or even other kind of accessories that we could give out. And that could probably create conversations around like, why is there such like 3 statements or objects of the TS? What is that? We could give it out at the lodges as well. Oh, I think that's about it. Okay. So, we will send out the information through the emails that you have written, the participants, right? We will send it out. And for those that didn't manage to attend our workshop, you can visit the website. It's very simple. It's just wfyt.org. Okay, the alphabets get mixed up a lot, but it's WF, okay, YT.org. Or email us at info@wfyt.org. Or just approach us if you have any questions. All right, thank you so much. So.